I saw the Simon in the crowd on the heels of that epic dog collar match at Final Battle. Something to the effect of the Briscoes, top 5 dead or alive. Then a couple days later at a New Japan event, Kevin Kelly referenced that same match and sentiment in regards to them boys. Roughly a month later, Jay unfortunately is no longer with us. I don't know if that fucking sign and the saying was some kind of omen. Who knows what kind of trickery this Matrix has in store for us. Nevertheless, shortly after that match, I got to thinking, who are the top 5 tag teams in wrestling history? And do the Briscoe brothers really make the cut? Now, obviously, I'm here to break all that down, but first, I want to share my love for them boys. As a new Ring of Honor fan back in 2009-ish, the Briscoes got my attention right off the rip. And I bullshit you not, I thought they were black. Well, light-skinned, but African-American no less. This was partly due to the intro of the ROH show on HDNet, where the highlights showed them looking all thugged out with the bandanas. I think Mark had a silver grill in his mouth, probably shortly after getting his teeth knocked out. Plus, they just had this country ghetto mannerisms that fit the script. It wasn't until I got a closer look at them down on the farm that I realized, like, damn, they just two country-ass white boys. The rest, you could say, is history. I watched these boys put on banger after banger, highlighted by Jay's amazing solo run, which included 2 reigns as ROH World Champion. Big loss for the wrestling community right here, man. It really sucks. Love and light to the Briscoe clan, and long live Jay Briscoe. As for the list, I'm trying to keep it objective and not solely based on personal favorites. So I'll be trying to look at criteria like skill, match quality, impact relative to the era, etc., etc. Obviously, that's easier said than done because I'm not some panel of fucking critics. I'm me, the one and only. Now, without further shenanigans, here we go. So my bias comes into question right off the rip. To this day, the Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane is my favorite all-time tag team in wrestling. In fact, they may be the very first heels I truly rooted for. Whether it's because I found the Fantastics, who they were beefing with around the time I started watching NWA, so damn deplorable, or Jim Cornette's presence, or the fact that they were such a great tag team with a dope-ass theme, I instantly gravitated to these cats. The one thing that really stood out to me about these dudes is despite the fact that they were obviously heels, their presentation screamed face. I don't know. Maybe it was their style and a mix of mat wrestling and high flying, along with the fact that they got more cheers than the average bad guys. They were just so damn good you couldn't help but appreciate what they brought to the ring, despite all the underhanded chicanery. So their inevitable face turn felt like a natural transition, and of course they knocked it out of the park until they eventually turned heel, because you know how wrestling goes. As for accolades, the Midnights have reached the very top of the game. They were synonymous with the United States Tag Team Championships, those dope-ass red and gold belts, and are the first team to simultaneously hold both the U.S. and World Tag Team Championships, the latter of which they obtained in a massive upset over the Horsemen's own Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. The titles, in addition to the countless great matches in a time when work rate was hit or miss, made these guys a gem of their era. It's crazy when I hear old heads suggest that another version of the Midnight Express might be better. I know it's possible, if not likely, but me, it'll always be Eaton and Lane, the Gangsta of Love, and a Sultan of Swing. I am not a fan of the New Day. From the moment they debuted with that preachy power of positivity bullshit, they've been nothing but cringe. However, I give credit where credit is due. So while I'm not fond of the corny ass gimmick, I tip my cap for the success they've achieved in the most heavily scrutinized era of pro wrestling. Big E, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods made such an impact on tag team wrestling that they're almost as synonymous with the Freebird rule as the fabulous Freebirds themselves. The Freebirds were great, no doubt, but the New Day definitely delivered better matches. And that's the thing about these cats. No matter the pairing, you can count on these dudes to go out and deliver every single time, all while oozing oodles of charisma. I can't lie, I've muted more than a few New Day promos. Comedy in wrestling is very hit or miss for me in general. Still, these guys are clearly very entertaining, and while they may not be over with me personally, they have most definitely resonated with a huge segment of the fan base. Cynical me would argue that the New Day aren't even close to a top 10 list, let alone a top 5. But the more logical, realistic me surfaces from time to time and can't ignore what they've accomplished in this business. They hold the record for the most WWE Tag Team title reigns at 12, and until recently were the longest reigning champions in history, with their run lasting a ridiculous 483 days. They even attributed to a new standard in the Fed as the first team to notch a triple crown, as in winning the Raw, SmackDown, and most recently NXT Tag Team titles, which at the time of this recording are held by Kingston and Woods. It also doesn't hurt that each dude is a great singles competitor. Of course, you've got Kofi, the most accomplished of the group, a Grand Slam champion and whatnot. Then Big E finally got his big win a couple years ago when he cashed in Money in the Bank, got the big belt. Woods even won the last King of the Ring. While each guy has had his individual moments, I think it's fair to say that their careers will be defined by what they accomplished as a team. What seemed like another random Franken squad doomed to fail in the WWE became the most decorated team in their history. And it's crazy to think they've been around for almost 10 damn years. Respect to the Booty Boys. I mean, the New Day. The Usos were literally made for this. Day one-ish. You can see they had it from the very beginning. Even when they came out donning the island attire, playing homage to their Samoan heritage, you could see they were not only dangerous, but a little bit hood. So it was great for me, a fan from day one, to see them finally get over the hump and claim their first tag team championships with a memorable win over the New Age Outlaws on Raw. I was even more ecstatic when they shared the tribal paint and ceremonious entrance for a look and feel more in tune with hip-hop culture. I never thought they were as bland and cookie-cutter as some fans made them out to be back in those days. Like I said, we saw the signs that revealed they were with the shit. However, it wasn't until the Uso Penitentiary that they truly blossomed as characters. Those promos they cut back in those days were hair-raising, chill-inducing, all that good shit. More than anything, they were super intense. It was palpable and cut through the crowd in a way that you can feel white people get uncomfortable when they're exposed to thug elements. And I fucking loved all this shit. As for their accolades, man, what haven't they done in the game? The Usos are the current and longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history. And right now we're well past 550 days, and with the bloodline ruling the roost, so to speak, there doesn't appear to be an end in sight to their dominance. They've held the straps a total of 8 times across Raw and SmackDown, and have arguably put on more bangers than anyone in company history. In fact, you can say that as WWE performers, the Usos represent the true dream match fodder as far as tag team wrestling goes. For years, I wanted to see these guys face off with every team from the Briscoes and the Bucks to the Machine Guns and Beer Money. because you know it's an instant classic in the making. Maybe I'm living in the moment, mourning, recency bias, whatever you want to call it, but god damn it, them boys have earned a spot on this list. It's hard to say what's the best version of the Briscoes. I mean, they've been so good for so long. Staples of ROH through every era of the company. Wars with every capable team that ran through the promotion. Steen and Generico, American Wolves, the Kings of Wrestling, the Young Bucks, and of course the epic trilogy with FTR, which culminated in that insane dog collar match that saw them capture the 13th and unfortunately final ROH Tag Team Championship. While the Briscoes are synonymous with Ring of Honor, they became a commodity across the global wrestling community, all without the machine of the WWE or now ROH brand AEW behind them. From New Japan to Impact Wrestling and beyond, them boys have been everywhere and look like true stars in the process. And that's what makes the Briscoes so great. They could go, make any opponent look like stars, and had a unique presence that some might say is missing in modern day wrestling. Of course, it's not your prototypical look, but with Jay's intense promos and Mark's wild antics, they stood out and established themselves as one of the best pairings to ever lace them up. It's just a real shame that we never got to see them tear shit up on a bigger stage. The Briscoes were a fixture in tag team wrestling for 2 decades and never missed a single beat. No other duo can say that. And now for something unprecedented. I split the top spot in 2. Hey, it's my list, so...
Whatever, I do what I want.
The WCW Tag Team division was thriving in 1989. You have the aforementioned Midnight Express, the Fabulous Freebirds emerged onto the scene, the Skyscrapers and Doom were just getting their thing started, and in the midst of all that competition, you had the dog-faced gremlin Rick Steiner and some new kid, his little brother, Scott Steiner. Rick was put together, no doubt, especially back in them days. A phenomenal athlete in his own right. But Scott took the damn cake. Freakish athleticism. And a physique, of course. And an arsenal of moves that at that time seemed impossible to pull off for a guy that size. These dudes wasted no time disrupting the tag team scene in WCW. They captured the World Tag Team titles during their first year and shortly thereafter won the U.S. Tag Team titles from the Midnight Express, making them the second team to ever claim that honor. Along the way, they competed in some of the best matches the promotion had to offer, revolutionizing tag team wrestling as WCW embraced the larger-than-life element, perhaps more commonly known to the competition in Stanford. But they did this shit at a level you could argue was higher than any other team at the time, to the point where they were competing and winning titles in Japan. The Steiner star grew rapidly and soon enough, Vince McMahon came calling. Unfortunately, like many guys who made their name elsewhere, their WWF stint didn't go as well as it could have. That's not to say they weren't successful. Kind of like the Brainbusters. They came in and won the straps almost instantly. But, like Tully and Arn, their star faded fairly quickly. Could have been the WWF crowd who generally greeted outsiders with a lukewarm reception, or maybe it was the talent base itself not measuring up to the competition the Steiners faced in WCW and Japan. In any case, it was good to see the Michigan brothers pop back in WCW when they did, where they quickly resumed their run as a dominant team before Scott ultimately turned heel and donned his now infamous Big Papa Pump persona. For the Steiner brothers, their out-of-this-world in-ring acumen is complemented by their ridiculously lofty resume. Multiple championships across NWA/WCW, WWF, and New Japan, in addition to countless bangers against a who's who of legendary tag teams. In a way, you can say the Stoners were a precursor to the Briscoe brothers. They weren't as good promo-wise, but you had the hot-headed Scotty, who clearly had the most singles potential, along with the wild, always unhinged, dog-faced gremlin. Top 5 dead or alive for sure. Last but not least, the LOD, the Road Warriors. Straight from a bootleg Mad Max flicks, these guys were instantly the most physically imposing team anyone had ever seen at that time. And right out of the gate, they were booked like mega stars. I first saw the Road Warriors on what I have to assume was a rerun of AEW on ESPN, because by then they were already gone and the AWA itself was probably on the way out. Anyway, what I mainly saw was the cheesy music video they did, looking like they were on their way to a fetish club or some shit. In that video, there were highlights from their AWA run. Even more badass, as the white dudes say, is the fact that they used Black Sabbath's Iron Man as their theme music. As a young fan spreading my wings beyond the WWF product, I was blown away by their dominance and mere presence. If you watch a documentary or a podcast talking LOD origins, you'll probably hear something about how these guys were pushed to the moon despite their lack of experience. Well, by the time I finally saw them in the NWA, I think it's fair to say the kinks had been ironed out because I thought they were simply awesome. Not saying they were as good as the Briscoes or even the Steiners back then, but they had the fundamentals down and could thus put on a good match. The Road Warriors were instrumental in keeping me in tune to this new wrestling promotion as they were engaged in entertaining feuds with everyone from the Horsemen to the Freebirds. In fact, they headlined my very first wrestling event down at Cobo Hall. It was an 8-man tag team match that saw them teaming up with Sting and Lex Luger to take on the 4 Horsemen team of Ric Flair, Barry Windham, Tully Blanchard, and Arn Anderson. They even put all them cats in a figure 4 at one time. It was some cool ass shit. To no surprise, the LOD didn't land with the same impact in the WWF as the Road Warriors did everywhere else. Still, they had some great moments and won the straps twice, 3 times for Animal. I think my favorite part of the LOD and the WWF was how they decimated the Road Warrior imposters, Demolition. I actually like Demolition, man. They were a couple of beasts, but they were no LOD, so I was happy to see the right team go over, in my fucking humble opinion. The Road Warriors are best known for their intimidating presence and hard-hitting wrestling style. However, I think the most underrated aspect of their game was the gift of gab. Back in those days, managers were commonly paired up with wrestlers who weren't exactly nice on a stick. Maybe Precious Paul Ellering filled that role in their early days, but from the moment I saw them, I thought both Hawk and Animal more than held their own on the mic. Their promo game was every bit as intense as their in-ring style. A force in the state, instant legends in Japan, title reigns across multiple promotions, more awards and Hall of Fame inductions than you probably knew existed. Yeah, man, the LOD is that deal. So that's it. My top 5, dead or alive. I guess if you want to be a dick about it, you can technically count the Midnight Express as an honorable mention. They are the least accomplished and spent the least amount of time together as a team. I wouldn't necessarily appreciate it, but hey, I'll allow it for now. Peace.